Authored by Simon Black via SovereignMan.com. Last week at a Bernie Sanders campaign stop, someone asked him a question that began with, "Yesterday, oligarch David Koch passed away." The Bolshevik crowd interrupted immediately with ebullient cheers, joyfully celebrating the death of a man they had never met and knew nothing about. If you hadn't heard, multi-billionaire David Koch died last week at the age of 79 after a prolonged battle with cancer. Along with his brother Charles, David Koch was co-owner of Koch Industries, one of the largest private companies in the world. Forbes magazine estimated his net worth at more than $40 billion, making him one of the wealthiest people on the planet. That was strike one, because we know how much Bolsheviks hate wealthy people. Also, Koch Industries is primarily engaged in the oil business. And that was strike two. The only thing Bolsheviks hate more than wealthy people are wealthy people who make their money from oil. I suspect the Bernie Sanders crowd would have had less of a problem with David Koch if he had become wealthy from clubbing baby seals. David Koch was also a heavy donor to conservative causes. Although his politics could be described more as libertarian, he favored sensible spending and limited government, was pro for gay rights, in favor of ending the war on drugs, and against foreign intervention. The Bolsheviks labeled him as a Republican donor, and that was strike number three. Bolsheviks hate when wealthy people spend their own money on issues they find important. It's perfectly fine, of course, for Bolsheviks to spend other people's money on causes and issues that fit with the Bolshevik agenda, and for those reasons, a crowd of bitter, angry, ignorant strangers cheered Koch's death. Elizabeth Warren also decided to take a shot at Koch, the day after he passed away. The crowd at her campaign rally booed the recently deceased. All across social media, tolerant and enlightened Bolsheviks gloated over Koch's death. Despite the fact that he gave over $1 billion to charity. All they knew was that he was rich, he made it from oil, and he donated to non-Bolshevik causes. These people love to celebrate diversity, as long as that diversity doesn't include intellectual or ideological diversity. In response, one columnist remarked on Twitter, "I can't wait until the people who celebrate the death of their political opponents are in charge of healthcare." I couldn't agree more, and this sort of behavior is a pretty stark warning for everyone, regardless of how you feel about socialized healthcare, the Koch brothers, or anything else in politics. When it gets to the point that leaders preside over celebrating the death of their political opponents, it's time to take notice. It reminds me of 2 Minutes Hate from 1984. Each day, the citizens of Oceania are directed to ritualistically scream, snarl, and froth at the mouth towards whoever their leaders tell them to hate. They've never met these supposed enemies. They don't know anything about them apart from what they have been told by party officials. But if the leadership says to despise someone, the people do so without any independent thinking to reach their own conclusions. This is what our society is decaying into. If you have a different opinion, other people want you to die. It's not the first time in history that society has become so fractured, and unfortunately it won't be the last. Throughout history, every time society reaches this point, intelligent people who see the writing on the wall take steps to protect themselves and their families from this type of madness. Maybe it all blows over and people come to their senses. Perhaps they realize that death, chaos, and hate are not the answer. Maybe everyone mellows out. It's also possible that the vitriol becomes much worse. And if it does, you want to be ready. That's what a Plan B is all about, taking sensible steps to safeguard what you have worked your entire life to build. It means preserving your family's way of life by doing things that make sense no matter what happens or doesn't happen next. That means having some emergency savings deposited in a safe jurisdiction that's out of the legal reach of those who may intend you financial harm. A good Plan B could mean having a second residency abroad, or a second passport. You might even already qualify for a second citizenship just based on your ancestry. We also talk a lot about gold and silver, both great hedges in times of uncertainty. If you don't have a plan B, all your eggs are in one basket, and in a time where crowds gloat over the death of people with differing political opinions, that is a substantial risk to your freedom and prosperity. In case you're looking for some guidance about how to get started, take a look at our complimentary Perfect Plan B guide. And to continue learning how to ensure you thrive no matter what happens next in the world, I encourage you to download our free Perfect Plan B guide. Let's block ads. Why?